My coverage of CES 2023 is brought to you by Gigabyte, Asus, Kioxia, and Cooler Master. Welcome back to my coverage of CES 2023. I have moseyed on over to the MSI booth. It's more than a booth, it's actually huge in here, and I've asked them to show me the coolest and the best things that they have to offer here at CES. So imagine my surprise when MSI said, routers. I was like, wait, routers? MSI, you make motherboards, you make laptops, you make monitors, you make graphics cards. You want me to look at a router? Well, it's sort of a new category for MSI, and they're actually working on this one right here, which is the Radix BE22000 Turbo. This is a Wi-Fi 7 tri-band gaming router. It's currently in development, so we don't have a launch date. And in fact, Wi-Fi 7 products, because you need not just a source for your Wi-Fi 7 signal, but you also need like a laptop or other wireless device that also has Wi-Fi 7. So we're looking at probably towards later this year when Wi-Fi 7 becomes widely available and when products like this come out. But they had a couple really unique features that I thought were worth talking about. You might notice that it's moving. It's moving, yes. This one's a prototype, so the movement, they said, is not quite as smooth as the finished product will be. When you're connected via Wi-Fi, they will detect where the signal is coming from and adjust the antenna to improve your signal. And of course, it's very difficult to determine just how effective this will be without further testing and everything, but it is a unique feature on a router that I've never seen before, actual movement. And in case you're only just familiarizing yourself with Wi-Fi 7 in general, there's a lot of cool new features to it, but speeds up to 22 gigabits per second, as well as really low latency, which is great for gaming, as well as VR, streaming, and lots of other tasks. Let's talk about some products that are actually coming out pretty soon. And yes, we're still talking about routers. Here we have the Radix AXE6600. This is a Wi-Fi 6E tri-band gaming router. A couple unique features about this one, apart from the RGB, of course, which I'll talk about in a second, but it has AI QoS, quality of service. So it's actually going to automatically detect the packets going over your network. It's not going to inspect the packets, it's just going to identify them, because gaming traffic over a network is identifiable because it looks different than a lot of other typical network traffic. And while QoS, or quality of service features, are very handy to have on a router, especially if you live in a house or an office with multiple people all trying to use the internet at the same time, and you're just trying to game and you don't want loss of packets or latency added or anything like that. But it can also be somewhat difficult to set up. So this is going to do it pretty much automatically, seamlessly in the background for you. That's a nice feature. And then you might notice the RGB. Yes, do routers need RGB? Not necessarily, but a couple interesting things. First of all, you don't want to put LEDs or RGB LEDs in antenna. That can actually interfere with the signal, but have no fear, the LEDs in this are actually down in the housing, and they're using fiber optic to bring it up into the antenna. And if you're thinking this is just purely an aesthetic thing, again, an eye-grabbing sort of aesthetic touch, you'd be somewhat right, but they actually made it somewhat functional too. This button here in the middle, you can push it and you'll notice that the color changes. Teal, like you're seeing here, is actually for streaming mode, but you can also press it again to switch to red. Red's going to be gaming mode, and that's going to prioritize your gaming packets. And then if you press it again, it'll switch over to blue. Blue is work from home mode or general computing mode. So if you're dialing into a VPN or something like that, you'll probably want to set it to blue. And then you can easily push the button to switch back to red to prioritize your gaming packets. Wi-Fi 6E can go up to 6,600 megabits per second, so pretty nice speed there. And then one other feature of this router here, as well as its sibling over here, the AX6600, which is Wi-Fi 6, just not 6E, and it doesn't have the RGB integration. But using MSI's expertise in building stuff like graphics cards and laptops, they've actually added a pretty decent sized heatsink to these routers to keep the components inside cool. Keeping your electronics cool is typically going to add to their longevity. They've even got some heat pipes here to help transfer that heat out and away from the components, and they say that's the first time that a router has included heat pipe cooling. Oh yes, and I mentioned these are actually going to be available for sale. We're looking at mid-February, so about a February release for these. This one over here is going to be $350 US. The Wi-Fi 6 version is going to be $250, and they also have this AX1800 USB adapter if you want to add Wi-Fi 6 connectivity to a device that doesn't already have it. You can just plug it in via USB. It's got a decent sized antenna on there, or it comes with a dock with a USB port at the back. So if you want to position it out and away from your system somewhere that gets a better signal, you can do that too. Over here we have some peripherals. We're going to start off with this mechanical keyboard right here. This is the Vigor GK71 Sonic, and this one's actually already out with some red style switches, but they have just introduced the blue switches, MSI Sonic Blue with 45 grams actuation, and these are fairly clicky. I don't know if you can hear them very well right now with the noise here. But you got clickiness, you got a little bit more force required to push down there, so that's going to help people who might be prone to fat fingering and that sort of thing. And of course you have these keycaps that have clear bases that let the RGB LEDs shine through in a very vivid and vibrant sort of way. You also get lots of ease of use, quality of life features like shortcuts for controlling the RGB. Up here in the top right, you've got some extra controls for media as well as a roller knob, which you can actually do in two ways. You can just hold it and twist it like that, or you can adjust it from the side. And as you can see right now, they have some reactive typing going on. So as I type, it does that stuff. Lots of other effects available as well. And the top plate here is made of aircraft grade aluminum, which means you can build a plane out of it. Just to prove that I wasn't lying, here's the other version. Looks pretty much the same, but it has the red switches, which are 35 grams actuation, doesn't take quite as much pressure to push them down, and these are not clicky. So if you don't like loud keyboards, this is probably the way to go. We got a new lineup of mice here, the Clutch Lightweight series. So these are all going to be fairly lightweight, between 75 grams in terms of weight with the GM51 here up at the top, 65 grams for the GM41 here, and down to 58 grams with the super lightweight GM31. And you might notice we have wired versions down here, and we also have wireless versions up here. They also have docks that can cradle the mouse to charge it, and also have your USB receiver built in. So I always appreciate that because it makes it a lot harder to lose your USB dongle. The GM51 has some pretty unique styling here with the LEDs on the side. You might be thinking, like, how did they do that? Like, are you going to be touching LEDs with your thumb? The LEDs are actually sandwiched between an outer rubber layer and a thin layer just beneath, so that lets them shine through quite brightly. But it also gives you some nice feel and texture on the side. You can see there's some bumps there for some actual textured feedback. This mouse also features a 26,000 DPI sensor. This wireless version should be coming fairly soon. We're looking at about a Q1 launch time frame, so within the next month or two or maybe 3. And they're aiming for a cost around $90. On a quick correction here, the weights that I listed off there when I was starting out are for the wired versions. The wireless versions have to have the wireless hardware in there as well, so they're about 10 grams heavier, so this one's 85 grams. Here's a little demonstration of some of MSI's upcoming potentially all-white components, and they have a full desktop setup here, which I think looks quite clean, so I just thought I would give you guys a look real quick. This is using the white version of the GK71 Sonic. The white, as far as the actual finish, these are actually using red switches though. So again, we have the non-clicky interface with these. Then we have some more MSI peripherals. We got this headset right here in all white. We have an MSI microphone. I mean, and they've done a lot of work here with the design aesthetic to make sure everything sort of blends in really nicely, along with their controller. I don't know if you guys knew, but MSI makes a gaming controller. It's called the Force GC30 V2. It's a nice controller. I mean, it has a nice feel for me. I haven't had a chance to play with it too much, but it feels good. So guys, if you're looking to provide MSI some feedback in the comments section, specifically on some of these sort of in development peripherals, let them know how you feel. Let them know in terms of the look, the overall design, especially with the finished product with this entire desk setup right here. A quick glance at SSDs. These are the Spatium ones. I've just confirmed the pronunciation of MSI's branding for their SSDs. Spatium, guys, that's how you pronounce this. But they have two new ones over here, the Spatium M570, PCIe 5.0, NVMe M.2. The actual version you buy will not be glued to a plexiglass block like this one is, but it's nice for presentation. Pretty sick looking heatsink there on top, and the actual performance of these, 10,000 megabytes per second, both read and writes for the M570. And then there's the M570 Pro over here, and this one goes up to 12,000 megabytes per second reads, so a little bit more performance there. Also 10,000 megabytes per second on the writes, and there's a quick look at the heatsink that they've pre-installed there as well. Pretty clean looking, I like it. MSI's been working on their pre-builds. Pre-builds are very convenient for people who don't want to build their own PC, and I always respect that there are people who would rather do that than take the time to build their own. This is the Infinite RS 13th, and it features entirely MSI components, except for the CPU and memory, of course. Available in a variety of configurations, the case has really easy access with swing open side panels, a nice clear tempered glass panel here to see the interior of the finished system, as well as lots of ventilation here up front. I like to see that rather than blocking it off with another tempered glass panel or something like that. But you know what's cool? For my viewers who are located in the US, they're actually building these in the US. They're assembling them actually in Southern California. So that's nice for anyone who likes the homegrown experience. MSI is actually assembling these in-house, so whereas, yes, of course, the components are primarily manufactured in China or Taiwan, they are assembled right here in the US of A. And here's another MSI pre-built. This one is not assembled in the US, but it is available globally, so just to point that out. This one also is an honoree for the CES Design and Innovation Awards. Specifically, we're looking at the Meg Trident X2 13th indicates that this is available with 13th gen Intel Core processors up to the 13900K, and the GPU goes all the way up to an RTX 4090. Now, if you're looking at this case and you're thinking, wow, it's fairly glossy, that's pretty cool, but where's the actual air come from? How do they keep things cool? They've taken a unique approach to that. This top vent right here is actually an intake, and they built a shroud for the RTX 4090 inside, so it is provided clean, fresh air from the outside of the case right here. Meanwhile, you have additional ventilation that's going to come in from the front and the bottom, and then right here is where the actual exhaust is for the 280mm all-in-one cooler that's cooling down the 13900K. So this one has a pretty distinctive look. You can see some MSI stylings here across the front. It's a little edgy. It's got some edge to it. And they've included this touchscreen here at the front, which currently is showing the weather. But you can also have that show system stats, settings, and even use it to control compatible MSI monitors that might be connected. I am like completely out of time here at the MSI booth, and they had so much stuff to show off. So guys, there are more things that MSI has. They got some motherboards, they got some graphics cards. I'm gonna finish off with a look at this custom built system, because again, that's just something I like to do at CES. This isn't a pre-built that's available for sale or anything like that. This was a custom project they did for the show with EK, but look how clean it is. Look how straight those bends and those tubes are. That's absolutely gorgeous. But like I said, guys, I am out of time for my coverage here at MSI, but I want to say a big thank you to them for inviting me over. And also a quick plug, if you guys haven't noticed, but Brian, BPS Customs, we've been sort of like bouncing back and forth the whole time. So he is going to cover some other stuff here that I did not. Check his channel out, BPS Customs. He's been doing a great job with the CES show coverage, and he's doing it all by himself. So I just want to give him a shout out. Big thank you to my sponsors for this event, Gigabyte, Asus, Cooler Master, and Kioxia. I have more CES coverage coming at you guys real soon. So hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you're not already, and we'll see you in the next video.